Hello, this is Casey here. Welcome back to my channel and my video series. I'm building out my Expedition camper. Today I'm coming at you with the plumbing of the hot water system and some isolation valves to make sure it can be operated in any operating condition, as well as a thermostatic valve to operate and improve efficiency and comfort, as well as talking a little more about why I don't use PEX tubing and coming to you some crazy hair. Alright guys, I'm going to show you one of my tricks, and that is to get hose, tight fitting hose. This is nothing special, but it is certified for drinking water. I want to make sure that it's good, clean hose for drinking water. It's certified for that. It's more than enough, obviously, pressure for it. It's braided. It's clear, so I can see what's inside. If any bubbles or anything build up. I figure it's much easier to use or replace barb fittings than it is like a PEX or something like that, because PEX requires a special tool. Those tools are very expensive. If you're traveling and you have a leak or need to do a change or make a repair of some kind, are you really actually going to have that tool with you, that PEX tool and PEX tubing? Probably not. Probably very difficult to come by in a lot of other countries other than the US. And so hence I use barb fittings, easy to come by, hose clamps, very easy to come by, standard braided hose or other kind of hose, easy to come by. But one of my challenges is actually getting this braided hose onto the fittings, these barb fittings. It is so tough sometimes to get them on there. So what I do, my trick, and I'm going to show you this is my little trick, is I use, what I found works well, is to actually just take a little bit of lip balm, kind of like an unflavored natural lip balm, just put it on the threaded portion, the barb portion, I mean, not the where it'll touch the water. Even though this is safe, it's obviously it's food safe, it's made for our lips, so it's going to be fine for that. But this little bit of lubricant, we know it's food safe, we know it's safe for humans, just around the barbs really immensely helps to push on this tubing onto the barb fittings. So this is one of the tricks that I came across that really has worked out well, that I know is safe and so forth to use. And so I wanted to pass on to you. I've already gone through one whole thing of lip balm, getting all these different hose fittings on. So here we go. Let's do it. You can see that little bit of lip balm on there. Go ahead and I can just slip that right on, so much easier. And this one I know is going to have, you can see that hose has a very slight bend to it. So I'm going to line this bend with the way it's going to bend naturally into position over here. So it'll have its best, I'll call it most easy alignment, right? And then the other thing I do is I'm going to pre-feed, of course, the hose clamps here as well. Sorry, I'm looking like through the bars here. These pieces are not permanently installed yet. They're just temporarily installed. The other thing I want to think about is how I'm going to actually get to the hose clamps in the future if I ever need to tighten them or anything else. So I'm going to put them in a way that I can always get to them. And each of these may be a little bit different, and they are in this case. So they can be a little bit different. So I'm going to preload this on, and then I know it's really hard to see this one here, but I'm going to go ahead, and this is the fitting that is incredibly difficult to fit on, even with that lip balm and twisting. It just grips right on. It's crazy. So if you don't want to struggle too much, don't use the tight fitting barbs. All right, a little more water, a little bit of lip balm, and voila, man, it goes right freaking on. So there we go, that's the trick. Now before I put my adjoining piece on, let's get my hose clamps on there. Here we go. Now that piece is on there, that looks really nice. I can still access the valve that's here to shut off the hot water supply. So I'm going to go and tighten that up. And what I need to do now as well, before I do that, put in this pretty tight bend, but not so tight. So I'm going to turn this down just a little bit so I can have it nice and smooth, keep the restrictions down, and keep my amount of tubing down, and also more space here to put things. So I'm going to cut this right here. Sometimes I measure it, sometimes I just mark it with my hands, make sure my fingers are out of the way before I cut anything off. Now I'm going to rotate this barb down just ever so slightly more. There we go. This here is not completely tight as well. I've got my other hose clamps on here. Here's one. This one I want to be able to reach like that. Not like this. And this one I want to be able to reach like that. Nope, I want to turn around like this. As much space inside as possible. Kind of again rotate my hose. It's got kind of a natural bend to it, and voila! Get this hose clamp into position and start tightening everything down. Well, after already installing almost all the plumbing, at least out to the distribution to the different fixtures, I want to make one more change, and I hate to make a change now, but I think it's what I need to do. One of the challenges is that the thermoregulating valve here, I call it anti-scalding valve, that's required on fixtures certainly in most of Europe and Asia, that I wanted to have here so I could really set my higher temperature on the hot water heater tank. So I wanted to make sure I had this so I could also still have a comfortable temperature coming out of it. The fitting comes out here pretty far. It's as small and tight as one as I could get, but with all the right fittings on the ends. But I'm going to turn this to a 90, and the reason why is because I was changing the plumbing up a little bit the way I was going to run the plumbing out from the pressure pump, but part because I'm going to add a shutoff valve for the cold water going into the hot water tank, and so that way if I ever need to do any maintenance or anything on it, I can shut it off. You'll see there's a valve here. This is actually a drain valve, so this is intended to as the pressure relief valve here. Also they interconnect to do drain out of the hot water tank, so if that's ever needed in freezing storage, can be stored in that kind of environment to keep it from hopefully freezing or bursting, having any issues. So anyways, I'm going to change this to a 90. I'm going to put a shutoff valve between the supply to the hot water tank, and then that'll also be my shutoff coming into the anti-scald valve. So it'll shut off all the pressure water coming into the hot water tank. So like I said, if I ever need to just shut that off for some reason, the hot water coming in, but still keep the cold water coming in the hot water tank, but still keep cold water supply going to the rest of the system. So if I ever have maintenance on the hot water tank, or if I'm shutting down just the hot water system but not the cold water system for some reason, so I can do that. So I got to kind of recreate my fittings, got them all sealed up with the sealant, the wipe-on sealant from Hernan. This stuff's fantastic. You can put it on wet or dry, and it's reusable, and it seals incredibly well. I've got those on all my fittings. I've got kind of my plumbing figured out. Now I'm going to go ahead and start changing this up to 90 and figure out the rest of these fittings here so I can get that done. And then I can get the air conditioner compressor installed on a mat and a platform here and get it framed down. I was learning how to bolt it down. Thanks so much for watching today and putting up with my crazy hair, and certainly learning a little more about my plumbing system and why I did it this way. I'll talk a little more in a future video about PEX and why I chose not to use it. Also, of course, the installation of the air conditioning system, which I'm very excited about, as well as building out more cabinets and some other modifications. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing to my videos. I very much appreciate you watching and subscribing, and also sharing with others. I appreciate sharing with you what I'm learning in my DIY expedition camper build here.